All right, everybody, we want to take a second to talk to you about an amazing sponsor. We have an amazing relationship with RayAllen.com. Ray Allen is a one-stop shop for everything dog, not just working dogs. Everything dog that you need, you can go down there, check them out, RayAllen.com. Awesome people. They got everything you need.
Another one of our favorite partnerships is with a Dog Trail. They've been with us from the start. Great collars, great ball poppers, great GPS tracking, big dog, small dog, bark collars, everything. I got everything like that they have at the kennel. We use it every day. Be sure to head them up, dogtrail.com. Listen for the discount code later in the episode.
Hits 2023 is being held in Scottsdale, Arizona. I hear they have at the hotel, they have like this super high end shopping outside. And I think you can go surfing in the desert, which I'm super looking forward to. Anyway, Scottsdale, Arizona, August 15th to the 18th. So hurry up and register now to save a spot and make sure you get a room.
Take the guesswork out of making sure you're feeding your working dog correctly by using Kinetic Dog Food. Hit them up at kineticdogfood.com and look them up on the Instagrams at Kinetic Dog Food. Take all the guesswork out and do it right from the beginning.
We love Horizon Structures. Dude, this stuff is so awesome, man. You can get online, you can talk to them, you could build it you want from mild to wild. They'll come bring it to your place, set it down on your pad, hook up your power, hook up your water, and you can put dogs in it that day. If you don't believe me, check out some guys like Justin Rigney's got a great setup there. Ask him. Check him out, horizonstructures.com. All right, everybody, Working Dog Radio. We are back broadcasting The Bite, another great episode from the HITS Canine Conference in Orlando, Florida, 2022. Reminder, next year, HITS will be in Scottsdale, Arizona at a huge 5-star resort with 2 pools and a lazy river and all kinds of things and some high-end shopping. So if you take your spouse with you, you will probably be broke.
And I think we confirmed that they do have a surf thing.
Yeah,
I think I looked it up. So we can surf in the desert.
I will break my elbow. I'm not going to do it. So anyways, my name is Eric Stambro. As always with me is my co-host, Ted Summers. Ted, what is going on?
Not a lot. We're rocking and rolling on the second day here at HIT. Yeah, the resort's good. The weather's good. Hadn't been too bad. The food's good. So we ate at that restaurant next door. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't actually. Well, I had the best ribeye I've had in a long time here at the hotel. I haven't left the hotel.
Yeah,
not Uber. I'm not going nowhere. I walked next door to Denny's one time. That was
my Uber from the airport was like 4 miles. It was like $63.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I had to take an Uber XL because I had to bring all the podcast stuff.
Yeah. So who do we have today in this one?
So we had somebody. I tried to nail him down when we were in Chicago, and of course I blanked and stuff got away from me. But every time I see this guy's name come up, I'm like, oh fuck, I need to get him. We need to get him on the podcast. So after a while of trying to nail him down, we finally got Gene Ramirez. Gene, how are you?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So give us a brief, short blip on your background, what you do, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Well, I'm an attorney out of Los Angeles, but I've been involved in law enforcement for over 40 years now. Started off as a level 1 reserve police officer in a Southern California Police Department, and then I became a deputy DA when I graduated from law school. Did that for a few years, and then when my twins were born, my wife suggested it was time for me to go earn some more money, so I had to leave the DA's office and join the world of private practice. And the very first case I had when I left the DA's office on a Friday, I started this new firm on a Monday, and it was a canine case with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And that's what got me into the world of canine, that one case.
That was your first one?
The very first case on the desk happened to be a canine case, and that allowed me to run with it. And now, 30-something years later, I handle a lot of canine cases, and I deal with a lot of canine units around this country, and some of the best people I've met are canine handlers.
That one case pigeonholed you for the
Yeah, some people think that. I actually think it opened it up because from canine, I went into the SWAT side.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started handling all these SWAT cases, and then I got involved with the federal agencies who had canine units, and then I got a call from JSOC involving one of their units. And so I have a relationship with that particular organization now, and those guys are retiring. I've set up their training companies for them, and so now they're my clients. So it's been a really good life for me so far. I've been happy.
So you're probably like me, where you grew up watching LA Law, and you're like, I'm going to be a lawyer. We're going to make money. And then you go work for a DA's office, and you're like, yeah, I'm not really making anything. I'm not Corbin Burnson with the convertibles and everything like that. I do say that guys and girls that come out of law school and then go to work for a DA's office or even a public defender's office
are in it for some right reasons, because there's no money. You know what I mean? It's a salary, and you get some benefits, maybe some health insurance.
But it's the experience that you get. And again, I don't care if you're on the PD side or the DA side, you believe in what you do, and you can't criticize people for doing what they believe in. Mm-hmm. I just chose the DA side because as a law enforcement background, that's just where I gravitated towards. And then when I left, of course, my passion was defending law enforcement, and it's done me well. I'm very, I had a team of 10 lawyers now. My overall firm's 180, but 10 of us defend law enforcement. So, yeah, we've done well.
Yeah, 180, holy smokes.
Yeah, so
I complained about my payroll today, and I had 27.
Yeah, mine too.
Let's not talk payroll.
Yeah, every time that check comes through, I'm like, did we hire somebody else? Like, what is that?
Yeah. It's a good thing my window didn't open my hotel last night. I look at the bank account, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And as the owners, we're always the last to get paid. So
life is
exactly.
Good.
Yeah. So being that we're at a canine conference, you were doing the civil liability side of canine. So we just had Ted Das on, who is the Fourth Amendment side for all things drug related, and he'll be the first one to tell you, he's like, I don't know anything about the apprehension side, about the civil liability side. And Ted's really good because he's like, I'll stay in my lane, and that's one thing he said when he was in here. He's like, that is definitely not my lane. That stuff is not. So, kind of give us a little bit of background on the topics you were covering here at the conference, and we'll kind of move on in that direction.
God, we covered quite a bit in those 2 hours, and God, the class was like 250 people in there.
Yeah,
it was pretty well attended. So thank you all for those who showed up. We covered about what's going on right now across the country. There's obviously a push to prosecute officers more than I've ever seen before. And so we talked about that, the Breonna Taylor officers who were just filed upon. We talked about some current videos regarding the use of police service dogs where it's not a good bite. And it didn't look pretty on video. And the canine handler had a difficult time getting his dog to out, which is just horrific. And that's a case where obviously that agency may have to settle now. But it also opened up discussion for, should you call your dog off from a position of safety with a verbal out? Do you need to go up and do a hard out? Those are issues I'm dealing with in my cases right now. Length of time on the bite has always been an issue. And how do we document that and deal with that? And supervision of canine units, we discussed that a lot today. We talked about qualified immunity. And we talked about doing things differently or we're going to lose our canine units because there's a national movement to get rid of bite dogs, which scares me because they obviously save lives, save personnel. They cut on time, to do a building search, for example. I'm scared that a lot of our states are going to get rid of police service dogs, and that's going to put lives at risk. And so I'm fighting to stop that. But I need the cooperation of our canine units to realize voluntarily, maybe we need to tighten up our deployment policies. So where 5 years ago we would have deployed on that shoplifting suspect, today we're not. We're only going to deploy it on very serious felonies. Otherwise, we're going to lose our units, and I don't want that to happen.
So one of the things we talk about, and all these agencies will either not have a dog or they'll only get a single-purpose dog. And the response from the administrations, who all are people that came on in the late 80s, early 90s, all of them say liability, liability, liability. The problem with that is they can't come up with any court cases. They can't come up with any huge settlements out in almost every state in the country. Some states are a little more litigious, as you know from where you're at. But so the liability of all these millions of dollars paid out does not exist. They just made it up. Someone made it up before them, and they just say liability. And I always question them, okay, give me some liability. Give me some case law. Give me some cases. Tell me some lawsuits. And they can't because there's not that many around the country.
Of any that are legitimate bites.
Right, yeah. Like where they were right. I get it. If you screwed up or, some of the cost of doing business in this is biting maybe the wrong person, you're tracking, you go around the corner and there's two dudes there and you bit the wrong one. Those things happen. But if your people are doing right and you're trained right, which is the problem, and you're supervised right, because most of these, I always tell them, almost every Supreme Court case that revolves around dogs is all nose related. But it sounds like maybe the tide's going to turn a little bit from. I blame live PD myself just for all that shit. But what are we seeing trend-wise? Where are guys screwing up?
Well, if police departments are really adverse to risk, they should never send their people on patrol to begin with.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
yeah.
don't even hire police officers because there's risk involved.
We say that a lot. I tell admins, I was like, the difference between risk adverse and risk aware, two very different concepts.
Exactly. And can you stop a lawsuit 100%? Of course not. But can you weather and defend against a lawsuit? That's the question you should be asking yourself. I'd rather an officer deploy a dog than shoot, because you can recall the dog. You cannot recall that bullet. And there may be scars at the end of that result of the dog bite, but people can live with that and move on with life. Whereas if they're shot and killed, well, things change. So I'm a big proponent of our dogs. And the trend is the issue of control. And I was just talking with a bunch of handlers right now. I've been doing this a long time now. And 5 years ago, handlers had this verbal control over their dogs. They can do amazing things. Now I see a lot of handlers using these bite bars or breaker bars, whatever you want to call them. And they say, well, Gene, it's just another tool. I'm with you. If that helps you get the dog off for that much quickly, I'm all for it. I will applaud you. But I have seen body-worn camera video of our handler having a difficult time getting the dog off the bite. Then they insert the breaker bar, and it still takes another 15, 20 seconds for that dog to come off the bite. That does not look good.
Yeah, that's a guy who's not practicing with that.
That's it. Who someone has no control over a dog. So that looks bad. So it comes back to training, control of your dog, and taking pride in knowing your dog's so well trained that if you give it the out command, it's going to out. And when I see these dogs struggling with their handlers, they're choking their dogs off, and you hear them yelling at the suspect, stop fighting, but the suspect isn't fighting.
Yeah.
Jurors are not receptive to that, and that's where our liability starts coming in.
I think, and Ted, we talk about it a lot. I think that whole suspect stop fighting my dog is actually been weaponized against the guys.
Yes.
Yep. Like, we know what you're doing. There's
been cases argued. It's been argued, but not successfully. But I mean, they're at least trying that saying that is an escalation of force, which we know is not true. And and I've actually had attorneys ask me this, like kind of like off the record. They're like, does it make them bite harder? I'm like, if you can find somebody that can train a dog to do that, I want to talk to him because I want to know that trick. Like if I can literally gauge how hard I can tell a dog to bite, and that's what a joke I tell them. It was like, which dogs bite harder? I'm like, they all bite harder. It only takes 12 psi to break human skin. Like a Chihuahua bites at 30. Like it's as long as it's like buying a car based on how well it goes in reverse. As long as it bites, it's fine. And so, and that's the thing that like our handlers. I showed a video in our presentation of one of my handlers who had been out of school for 30 days. And he got a legitimate bite. It was a good bite. And he handled it beautifully. And he communicated with the suspect. And he communicated with backup. He didn't say one time, because I don't let my guys say it, I don't ever let them say, stop fighting the dog. I was like, your job is to communicate with backup, to communicate with the suspect, to get him under control and get the dog off as fast as possible. And we showed one from Marion County that happened last week where he sends the dog and the guy doesn't break cover to make sure. And then as soon as the guy determines that he's not armed, he takes him off the bite, one of Eric's guys, before the guy's even handcuffed. And he's clearly reacting to being bit by the dog. He's not resisting. And you see the handler reach through and you can tell he's like checking him for weapons. And then he pops the dog off immediately. The guy's not even handcuffed yet, rolls him onto his face and says, just sit there and wait. I'll get you fixed up. Why'd you run? And, so he didn't leave him on.
So the out is a mythical thing, right? And everybody stresses over it. And stresses, mainly because certification and things. They're not even so worried about it on the street. They're more worried about passing the certification. They stress over it. And we emphasize to guys, and I think it gets misread sometimes, we emphasize to guys that there are no big court rulings, Supreme Court rulings that say you must have a verbal out. You got to show control. But what I think they confuse that with is not understanding when it's over and you have to out. So I think that's kind of it's Ted puts a case San Diego,
the Hartzell case,
the Hartzell case, yes,
out of in our PowerPoint to talk about it. Like you were good to be there, but you got to get out now. You want to talk about it sounds like maybe that's where we're headed. Like they were cool with the bite, but what was that when the guy,
a lot of these cases, you're right. The U.S. Supreme Court has never really addressed a bite dog case. They've addressed narcotics dog cases, but never an actual application of force. And so in the Hartzell case, for example, the initial application of the dog was fine, but then, according to the Ninth Circuit, the handler then asked the suspect to bring his dog towards him.
Yeah.
And that was the problem there. So again, that's an old standard. bring my dog to me.
Yeah.
The court basically said as soon as you can see the hands, determine he's not a threat, you need to call your dog off. Verbally,
Get him
physically,
out.
get the dog off. That was the part of the problem. Now, in the actual jury trial, the County of San Diego prevailed on that case.
Yeah.
So even though the Ninth Circuit had an opinion that was not, it was critical of keeping the dog on, the actual jurors came back in favor of County of San Diego. So it just shows that the Ninth Circuit or any appellate court can be wrong, but they're basing it on the facts and the law as they see it. Jurors, when they get everything presented to them, may see things a lot differently. So the County of San Diego ended up winning that case, but the lesson should be learned is if you can see the hands, get that dog off the bite. There's no reason it should be on that bite.
And
unless the suspect's a threat and you can articulate that.
And that's, I was going to point out the Escobar Moses Monte case down in Fifth Circuit in Texas with Grand Prairie PD. It was a domestic violence thing. The suspect's parents were talking to them saying that you're going to have to kill him to take him into custody. And he complied, dropped a weapon, but it was still within control. They left the dog on a bite until they got him handcuffed. They sued and qualified immunity. All the judges turned, they're like, no, nope, that was legit all day long. And so, but it was clearly, and I actually know the handler, it was clearly articulated after the fact, like during the reporting phase, that like due to, and he did it with control in mind, left the dog on a long line, and he moved into a position to bite the hand that was the closest to the weapon to reduce the threat. The arrest team came up, and as soon as they got him cuffed, they popped the dog. I mean, quickly. So all right, one of the largest conferences in the country, HITS Canine Training Conference. It's America's premier canine training seminar, packed to the brim with the world's best instructors, and me and Eric, all covering important topics. There is no better place to learn and no better place to network with other handlers, breeders, trainers, and vendors. HITS 2023 is being held in Scottsdale, Arizona. I hear they have at the hotel, they have like this super high-end shopping outside, and I think you can go surfing in the desert, which I'm super looking forward to. Anyway, Scottsdale, Arizona, August 15th to the 18th. So hurry up and register now to save a spot, and make sure you get a room. We'll see everybody there. Largest law enforcement training conference in the world. Tons of training classes, lots of training topics for everybody and everything. Hours included, and more network opportunities. Be sure to hit up Jeff Barrett at 863-529-5113. HITS K9, letter K number 9.net, and at HITS_K9 and all of your socials.
One of the best relationships we have in this podcast and in this industry is with the great people down at Kinetic Dog Food. The story of Kinetic Performance Dog Food is pretty simple. They wanted to make a better premium dog food for the dogs that need it the most. Their goal is to give every working and sporting dog a higher energy level, better performance, and better overall health through superior nutrition. So they formulated a line of food based on what they considered to be the optimal profile of a performance dog. They've done tons of research on this. This isn't their first rodeo. These guys know what they're doing. If you're a kennel, they will come to your kennel. They will see the problems that you have. They will check out what works for the dogs that you have. They're amazing people to work with. They drop ship a pallet right to you if you want. I know a lot of guys that use them. There's a bunch of different formulas on there, and 32K might not be for your dogs. Maybe the 26K works. They can adjust it. They'll give you the right ideas what to do in different parts of the year. Winter's different than summer. It's really a well-run, good dog food company. kineticdogfood.com. Be sure to check them out on social media too, man. They're amazing folks. kineticdogfood.com.
By now, you've probably all heard my story at least once. I'm usually getting tagged by dogs or hurting myself. So this next product is like near and dear to me because I actually use it. Quick Turn by Vet Care. It does great for keeping small things from turning into big ones. I use it at the kennel for clients' dogs that have some issues with skin stuff or have food allergies or have environmental allergies. Works great. Keeps hot spots from making giant hot spots. And it keeps my working dogs, who inevitably find magnificent ways to hurt themselves, from turning it into a giant vet visit. Stops little issues from becoming big ones. So it comes in a spray, it comes in an ointment, it comes in a dressing. It's great for creating a protective barrier and promoting wound healing. You really only have to use it like once a day. So there's no reason not to have it in the vehicle. Since it's temperature stable, you don't got to worry about it getting hot, getting cold, or anything like that. So put it in your first aid kit or put it in your cabinet. Vetcare.us on the internet, Quick Derm by Vetcare on on Instagram and on Facebook, and then hit them up with the discount code 10WDR for 10% off your first order.
So my entire time that I was a handler or a trainer in law enforcement, the cars at my department, in the departments that I trained, all had American aluminum accessory kennels in the cars. Different cars, man. Dodge Chargers, all Ford models, some Chevys, SUVs, cars, everything. We loved American aluminum accessories. It's a great product, a great company. They've been serving canine law enforcement community for over 20 years. If you check out their website, EZ, that's the letter Z, EZWriterOnline.com. They got testimonials. They got videos on how to. They got a list of everything they have. Just today, we made a post on the Working Dog Radio social media showing a dog that survived a really bad crash because of the American aluminum kennel in the back of the car. Check them out online, guys. EZWriterOnline.com. Just let them do their thing, man. Whatever car you got for your work, your patrol car, get a hold of them, American aluminum accessories, and get the best in the business.
Next up comes training courses online from our friends down at Highland Canine Training, Jason and Aaron Ferguson. So in the post-Rona world, training budgets have been getting cut. People aren't going to be able to travel, whether it be instructors or they be canine handlers and supervisors going somewhere else for training. So Highland has announced a lot of online training courses. One of those that sticks out to me is their police supervisor canine course. And it's no secret that one of the problems with canine tends to be some of the supervision issues. This course is specifically designed for administrators and covers utilization as well as liability and FLSA issues. The course can be taken at your convenience, and you'll receive a certificate of completion at the end. When you go to Tactical Police Canine Training, that's letter K number 9, training.com, and use the discount code WDR30, you'll get 30% off of that course.
Here's a question for you. I just thought it was when Ted was talking about that. So say I'm a handler and I do a bite and I'm legal in everything I did, but there was a violation of policy. Where does that come back on me? Not departmentally, but is that stuff, you're looking at litigious stuff? Are you looking at violating the policy even though you were within rights by law? Because people are like, oh, well, I was good, but they're going to come after me because there's 4 things we're allowed to bite for in our policy, and this was the 5th thing. It wasn't in the policy. It was legally good, but not in the policy. Do you see guys getting ate up by violating that?
When you write policies, I hate the words "you shall do this."
Yeah.
Prefer the words like "should," so you can have a little discretion, which all law enforcement officers need to be able to rely on discretion. And so policies are generally we prefer to deploy in these areas. However, there may be extenuating circumstances where something coupled with violence, danger to the officers or others are all taken into consideration. And as we were discussing off air here, a lot of handlers are relying on Graham versus Connor. Oh, if this guy's an immediate threat to me or others in the area, I get to deploy. If depending on the severity of the crime for while we're there, is he fleeing, fighting, or hiding, I get to deploy. Things are changing. And a lot of agencies are making their policies more strict than Graham versus Connor. And as we discussed in our class, the new verbiage coming out of PERF and a lot of states are the terms of proportionality, necessity, and de-escalation. Yep. And it's applying to all uses of force. And so someone can say, okay, the initial bite was good, but after that, that dog should have come off sooner. Or maybe you should have tried a 40 mic before you sent the dog in. So they're going to be questioning whether we're using the less injurious type of force under this new standard.
And I've had conversations with people. I went to college with somebody that works at the DOJ, and kind of like friendly conversation. And he was like, you guys bite too many people. I'm like, of course you're going to say that. And he was like, well, why don't you use a taser? Why don't you use a 40 mic? Why don't you use that? I was like, you're fundamentally talking about a resource question. And I said, so when you have 3 people on a track, their only use of force options are a long gun, a handgun, an asp, or a dog, those are the force options. That's what they have. And I said, if you want us to stop biting people, then the DOJ should step in and give every department every means of less lethal that has ever been invented. And I guarantee you, we probably won't bite another person. And I was like, so it's fundamentally a resource question. And I say, the problem with dogs is that they're really good bang for the buck, right? They're a very highly specialized tool that has multiple uses. And I said, and they're a force multiplier. And I was like, so, tasers only serve one purpose, right? 40 mics only serve one purpose. Dual purpose explosives or narcotics and patrol dogs serve multiple purposes. And, I said this in our presentation, canine handlers, whether in the military or in law enforcement, are disproportionately put in the highest instance of use of force of any specialized unit. And the joke, well, not the joke, but what I tell guys, I'm like, how many of you guys are on SWAT? And they're like, yeah. I was like, how many times you shoot people on SWAT? They're like one a year. I was like, however, I've had handlers that have had 4 bites in a shift. Mm-hmm. And so we end up, and it's a resource question. And so it's not necessarily a dog problem, it's a resource problem. And they either need to make more resources available, or I don't know the answer to the question. I do know that it's a resource question because you deal with the agencies that you deal with, right? Like the largest law enforcement agencies in the country. They definitely don't really have a money problem.
But I also deal with some very small agencies,
Right.
and I agree with you. There is a manpower issue, and there is a physical limitation on the physical resources that they do or do not have available. And I had it was a large agency, but they didn't have 40 mic or beanbag shotguns available for patrol personnel. And this is a large agency. Everybody's going, why don't you have this? We don't have the money. And that's a Southern California law enforcement agency. They now have these things, which is great, but at the time they didn't. And you're right, they are limited to what they have on themselves.
Is that an affirmative defense?
No.
It doesn't work?
No, in fact, a lot of chiefs call me, hey, Gene, I have a part-time SWAT team. It's not a full-time SWAT team, so do I get a discount if we get sued? No. Graham versus Connor applies to full-time or part-time collateral team, so sorry, there's no discounts under Graham versus Connor.
So one of the things that Ted and I talk about a lot, and we're really big on this, and it's in a lot of places are lax on it, is so if you're going to defend a police department, one of the things you're going to look at is their training records.
Yes.
What do you want to see in those records? Because guys half-ass it so much.
I want to see what you're doing daily with your dog. I want to see what you're doing weekly, training with your unit. Do you train monthly with other units? So what do your training records look like? First of all, they shouldn't be handwritten.
Right.
That's,
I can't read mine if I'm writing them.
Exactly. And for whatever reason, they tend to get damaged in floods, or my dog ate it, or there was a fire in our canine unit. It's amazing how many excuses I've received over the
Our
years.
building burned down. There is that. We lost
That's true.
I don't know, 30 years of records.
And there have been floods, so these things do happen, but try explaining that to a judge who doesn't believe us.
Or doesn't care.
Yes, that's part of it too. But it should be electronically done, first of all. Mm-hmm. And then let's say who was there. What was the mission to be accomplished tonight? We're going to do building searches or whatever. Did you change because you decided to work on something else? Well, let's document that. Who were the instructors? Did that dog need remediation? Document it. Hey, my dog had a problem mounting, but you know what? Remediate, and after that, boom, my dog was coming off as soon as I mentioned it. And put that in there. So that way, because dogs have bad days just like we do. Mm-hmm. So let's document and be truthful. And so when I get a lawsuit, yes, one of the new so-called causes of action or claims is failure to train. I don't want to have to defend a department on a failure to train issue. If that dog handler team is not well trained, let's just settle it, because we're going to lose and they're going to use that forever against us. So I want to look at the training records. I want to meet with the dog and the handler team. I want to see them train to see if they're meeting industry standards. And I'll go to the group training, and if there's like 30 handlers there and you're there for 8 hours, but you only get maybe 2 or 3 reps, is that really good training there?
Right.
And so that's something my experts will take into consideration. And those training records will tell us a lot. I also want to know what your bite ratio is. Some agencies break down bite ratio a variety of different ways, whatever your definition is. Your apprehension rate, how many directed bites you're doing, when do you use a directed bite. LA County, for example, tracks by race, by crime, what station is calling for help or what outside agency is calling for help, because of all the lawsuits they went through. They have a tremendous amount of stats. Not everybody needs to go to that extent, but you do need to track a lot of things.
Has there ever been a number put on the bite ratio in court?
There was that Kerr versus City of West Palm Beach, Florida, for many years ago. Kind of talked about a 25 to 35% bite ratio is indicative of a misbehaving dog. I disagree with that because I could have a dog with a 10% bite ratio, one with a 50%, and one with 100%. And it's a dog with a 10% bite ratio that needs to leave. But you only know that by doing an in-depth analysis of each and every application of that dog on its own merit. It's a numbers game for management, but you got to look at every dog bite on its own and determine, is it justifiable or not?
I mean, so, and looking at that, and I mean, and with my new guys, I tell them, and the supervisors, I'm like, you need to look at each altercation in a vacuum. And because for right now, that kid that just finished my school that had a bite 30 days out, he's at 100% bite ratio.
Yeah, when does it start?
Exactly.
But that was a legit, and it was.
And it doesn't mean he's a bad handler. No, it's probably a very good handler.
And so, and I'll tell you, like, so from the defense side, you say what you want to look for. I have a really good friend that's it's a public defender for the feds, and when he has these cases, and this is on the narcotic side, but you can also kind of cross apply this to handling the apprehension side. When they look at records, he's looking for inconsistencies. He's looking for like one report that is written differently or one training record that looks different from the other ones, even if it has no bearing. And he was like, what happened here? Like, what's up with this? And if it's 3 years ago, they start asking questions like, why does this one look different? So the guy that I was talking to outside when you walked up is a very senior handler from my hometown, who I'm friends with, and they do a fantastic job. And when their reports are written and their training records are written, you can't tell who wrote it because they use the same acronyms, they use the same formatting. So when you get a report from those guys, it looks the same.
Well, that could be a problem in and of itself.
Yes,
Are we using canned language? Do we have a pre-planned report and you just check in the boxes? So we got to be careful about that as well.
Yeah. The thing that guys are really goofy about is putting their deficiencies on.
Right.
So then it ends up becoming always and never. My dog never gives a solicitation and sits on the wrong car. He has never done this, or he always sits, which we know is burned.
Yeah.
Like in Canada, the guy lost the largest fentanyl thing in the history of the country.
Because the dog didn't want to put his butt on the curb.
Sit.
Yeah.
So I'm from Canton, Ohio, is where the police department I retired from. So Canton v. Harris, we're pretty well versed in, right?
Yes.
And to tell people the seriousness of the failure to train part, I was involved back in 2005 in an excited delirium case. Got into a fight with a naked guy. He died. They sued me for $20 million. We went to court. It was me and 3 other guys. We went to court. The jury ruled that we did not kill him, but ruled the city didn't train us how to deal with that, and $1.8 million they gave him. So they can pick, go all the way, but failure to train and failure to supervise cause tons and tons of the complaints and the lawsuits, tons of them. So also when it comes to court, when you're doing it, how bad have the guys been in testifying, or how good? What kind of trend are you seeing? Are guys getting better at it? Because some guys go up in court and they are just robotic, and juries hate that. They hate it. Like, I'm not saying you got to giggle and have a personality, but you can't be. It's like when we interview cops, and like, relax, dude. You are not testifying.
I exited my police vehicle and I headed in a northwesterly direction. Exactly. No, that's not the way we're talking. And actually, preparation is key. We spend a lot of time preparing our officers and deputies, first of all, for their deposition, which is the first time they usually give testimony on the penalty of perjury about what they did. And we rehearse. We tell departments we're expensive, but we're going to spend a week or 2 with your officers and deputies getting them ready. And they all now realize how much these lawsuits can go for. They say, spend whatever time you have to. So we work with them to make them look at the jurors and just talk like a normal human being. We have a mock courtroom in my office in LA. And so it's set up like a federal courtroom. We do a lot of mock juries, and we'll bring in our clients, and they get to sit in front of a real jury in their minds, because it's a mock, and in a courtroom setting similar to a federal court, and they have the same nerves attached, even though it's just a mock. But then when they go to the actual courtroom, they say, God, Gene, this is just like your courtroom at your office. It's set up that way. So they have a more comfort feeling. And now they've been in there. They've been cross-examined in front of a mock jury. So now they're in front of the real jury. There is a comfort factor there. Not everybody can do it. It's very expensive to do a mock jury. They're minimum $50,000. Some of my clients want it in all our shooting cases, so we have to do it. But spending time with our clients and getting them comfortable getting in front of a jury and talking to them like a normal human being. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to say, I was scared.
Right.
Because
Right.
now jurors
Yeah.
you can relate to that. Oh, you were scared. I didn't shoot him because I was fearful. I shot him because they were doing A, Y, and Z. But it's a scary situation to go in that dark and an alleyway, and there's people shooting at you. So we got to put them in a situation where the jurors can relate to them.
And the funny thing about federal court is not even funny, I guess. But so I've testified in state court 4 million times, right? I know how to do venue myself from the stand, all that stuff. But federal court, the way that the order that things go and the way it works is 1,000% different. And it's if you're the defendant and the plaintiff and you're being sued, before you get to present your case, they really make you look like a piece of shit. And you're just sitting there and you have to take it. And and your attorneys are doing this and that, but it was pretty bad. So there was video of my incident, and I'm cussed a lot in the video, right? And they they put a counter on there how many times I swore.
Like the South Park episode?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how many times I struck him. That was going on. So when I got called up by the plaintiff, and that screws guys up too, that the plaintiff gets to call you up. So if you're the defendant, you're going to testify at least twice.
Yes.
So I get up there. The jury's right here, right next to me, and there's an older lady, and she goes like this, and she turns her back to me.
That's not a good sign.
Won't look at me, and it was because of the cussing. So I would answer to the jury. Some people don't like that. I was answering to the jury. I had to humanize it because it looked like I beat this guy to death and cussed at him, right? And he said, the guy goes, "Aren't you embarrassed or ashamed of how much you cussed?" And I was able to explain to him, yes, when you listen to it, it's cringeworthy and it's not professional, but I'm fighting for my life. And my words did not cause this guy's death. It's just words. She actually turned around and then looked at me the rest of the trial.
All right, we love the Perkinsons down in North Carolina at Highland Canine Training. They are great people, great trainers. They got a good business model. They're awesome folks. We've been with them for a long time. They're also super smart, and they understand that a lot of agencies are struggling to have manpower, so they're not sending people away for training. You guys have been there. You put in, denied, lack of manpower. So they've created an online course section of their website, tacticalpolicecanintraining.com. You get on there under training, the online course. But here's the best thing is they offer a canine supervisor course, which we know a lot of police canine supervisors don't get to go to training. They don't know as much as they should. Right here online, the course discusses topics such as proper selection of dogs and handlers, proper deployment, effective allocation and utilization, as well as liability and the FLSA issues, which we know is where all the legal stuff comes from, interdepartmental. The course can be taken at your convenience, and you will receive a certificate of completion at the end. They're offering an amazing discount, guys. 30% off using the discount code WDR30. It's a no-brainer. If you're a police supervisor and you guys have manpower issues and you can't go, get on tacticalpolicecanintraining.com under the training tab. Get on that supervisor's course, man. I'm telling you, it's a smart decision.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break for just a second and talk about Dogtra, one of our favorite sponsors. Dogtra's been committed for over 20 years to crafting dog training e-collars to perfect and precise fit and finish, intuitive design, and accountable performance. The Dogtra 1900S e-collar is one of my favorites, and it demonstrates what they strive for, an ultimate dog training tool that is durable, dependable, and designed for the most demanding conditions, which I can attest to because I tear stuff up frequently. My favorite is the 1900S Black and the 1900S Hands-Free, which I use all the time. Check it out at dogtra.com. Be sure to use the discount code WDR10 for 10% off any single item over $200. That includes the 1900 and the 1900 Black.
It's no secret that we love Ray Allen Canine Equipment. We use their products every single day. The mission statement says it all. To be a world leader in quality and innovation of professional canine equipment for police, military, Schutzhund, and ring sport, to exceed our customers' expectations and deliver on time every time at a fair price. We full-heartedly believe they've held to that, since it is our go-to one-stop shop for everything canine. Not everything canine alone, guys, dogs in general. If you train dogs, if you have a dog, everything you need for dog or canine, check out Ray Allen Canine Manufacturing, rayallencanine.com. Use the discount code WDR10 for 10% off.
Super excited to have American Aluminum Accessories on board with us here at the podcast. These guys manufacture a wide variety of products, from high quality cam locker toolboxes to an extensive line of products designed to meet the ever changing needs of the law enforcement community. Around 1992, due to the demand for safe and secure transport for a local law enforcement agency's canine unit, they introduced the very first in-vehicle Easy Rider canine container. So it was basically what we now call just our inserts. They have continuously grown and expanded the products, catering to the needs and the wants of their valued customers and high-profile clientele, and catering specifically to law enforcement. Over the years, as the needs have changed for law enforcement, they've evolved and expanded the products to include inmate transport systems, the canine training aids, which I use quite a bit of, canine inserts. Every one of my guys has one of those things. And if you're not even have to be in law enforcement, I have several friends that are civilians that work lots of dogs that have the inserts put into their cars too. So if you got one that fits, you can do it. They also do contraband and animal control systems, just to name a few. So be sure to hit them up. The website is Easy Rider Online. So that's the letter E, the letter Z as in zebra, rideronline.com. If you're looking for them on Instagram and Facebook, it's American Aluminum Accessories. Feel free to hit them up there too.
So our first and oldest sponsor that's been with us from the beginning is Arno out at ALM, out there in Las Vegas area. Arno is a great dude. He makes great stuff for police work and sport work, suits, tugs. I'm telling you right now, his tugs are the best in the business. You can't get any better. Multiple colors. I buy boxes of them from him, give them out to everybody. I've got a bite suit from him. Love it. I've had it for a little over 3 years, and it's holding up like a champ. Ted's got a suit that he's had forever from ALM. We wouldn't go anywhere else, man. We love it. Arno is such a good dude. His ALMcanineequipment.com is the website. Get on there. He's got pre-made suits. He can do custom suits based on your measurements. He's got stuff already made up. If you get a kind of generic large size, maybe for everybody, the colors he has, man, is really cool. He can put a lot of stuff on those suits. Check him out, ALMcanineequipment.com, and use the discount code WD Radio for 10% off.
Running a kennel is one of those things that I always worry about, is cleanliness and safety of dogs. And it seems like it's an ever-changing issue, being able to house dogs and move things around, everything else. So the guys at Horizon Structure make this as easy as possible. Literally, the only thing you have to do is have water and power hookups, and they deliver it, and you can put dogs in that day. And comes on a trailer. They just drop it off. You plug it in, put dogs in it, and you're ready to rock. You keep them clean, you keep them safe, you keep them cool in the summer and warm in the wintertime. And it's completely custom. You can go complete mild to wild. I've seen some that were stainless steel all the way from top to bottom on the inside. And then I've seen some for a bulldog breeder that, had smaller gates, because those things can't jump. So if you reach out to them, they're sitting there waiting for you to call and help you through the custom design process. They have everything from 2-dog ones up to, I want to say like 18 or 20. It's you can put a lot of dogs, indoor, outdoor runs. So anything you've ever dreamed of, they've got it, have done it, or can do it. So they've taken all the guesswork out of building it. Everything is pre-done to your specifications, and it's assembled, dropped off, boom, you're ready to rock. Things are amazing. Rigney has one. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Go check out his Instagram, and you can see he's posted it up there before. Go look Horizon up at Horizon Structures, spelled out. On the internet, it's horizonstructures.com, and you're going to look for the link in there that says commercial dog kennels, or give them a call, 888-447-4337. They'd love to talk to you and get you started on the way.
And I know didn't win them, but I did turn the tide a little bit on that on the way I testified. But I'm fucking shaking and scared to death up there. So real quick, one last thing before we get done. Let's go back to the case and the kind of what we're talking about. You're there, you're good on the bite. They're talking about time on bite. There's no time. It's not Robinette. There's no time that's been put to it.
There is no bright line.
Right. But what do you see as the stopgap? This is the break wall. This is where it's got to stop.
It's hard to say because it depends upon the circumstances. A lot of bites I see are 5 to 7 or 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're coming off. But I had a case where I went to trial where it was a high-speed pursuit. The suspect crashes. He runs down a triple canopy ravine. Our dog goes after him. It took our handler and search team a couple minutes to get down this mountainside, and they finally arrive upon the dog and the suspect. They're lying next to each other. They're both exhausted. That was 3-4 minutes before they got down there. We had to explain to the jurors why that happened, how long it took to safely get down this mountainside and get to where the dog and the suspect were. We ended up winning that case. So you just have to be able to articulate why the dog was on the bite for a certain period of time. Yeah. It may be you're the only one there. You're up in an attic space. There's no backup. You have to do the own search. It's probably safer to keep the dog on the bite. Yeah. But again, just articulate that.
Yeah, if you're in a small place and you're the only guy on scene, or your threshold's different.
It's safer to leave the dog on, in my opinion. So again, it all depends upon your facts and circumstances.
Same thing.
It's your job to explain it.
With Brandon, the video, we have a video on our presentation of a handler from somewhere here in Florida that he leaves a dog on for 6 minutes, and I played the bite in the entirety as he bites the suspect. Within about 30 seconds, they freeze the body cam video, and you can see the suspect pull a firearm out, and the dog is on his right arm. The handler tackles the guy, and he's on top of him, and he's got both hands on the hand with the firearm in it, and he's right-handed. But he said, and the dog is continuing to bite and is biting. And in hindsight, the handler kind of said, I knew that I had control. I knew that if I let go of his hand and he still had a gun, I was going to have to shoot him, and I knew that the dog was going to stay there. And he was like, so I knew at some point I was going to get the firearm away from him. And I joked with him after it. I was like, they got to give you a life-saving medal for that.
Yeah, he saved the guy.
And they did. They gave him and the dog one.
The video, the gun's pointed right at him. They're fighting him. It's right at him. His hand on it. Wow. And the guy's hand behind. It's he definitely could have. He probably didn't feel like he could get to it or whatever. But yeah, I don't have a problem. And that guy was definitely not complying.
No.
Let go. Put the gun down.
He was biting the handler, biting the dog.
No, bit the dog in the ear.
That's that 1%. Yeah. That's going to justify whatever you do. But that handler obviously did an amazing job.
And he did. And I mean, I've shown that video to people, to a couple of plaintiff's attorneys that are like, there is a bright line. It is this long. And then they see this video and how do you explain this? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, I guess it depends. I'm like, well, we can't really start making bright lines like we did in U.S. versus Campbell or like we did in Rodriguez on this. I'm like, well, it's still a Fourth Amendment case. I'm like, yeah, but it's not. I mean, it is, but we're not. It's way different circumstances, way different sets of the difference between search and difference between seizure. And, we don't, it's not the same. And I understand what the tactic is that they're trying to do, but they're like, well, it depends. That was clearly justified. I was like, because had he let go of that guy's hand, the outcome was he was getting shot.
Yeah. There can be no bright lines in our world.
Right. Yeah. Because everything, existential circumstances.
There's always an exception. Yeah. There's always a justification. It's incumbent upon us, though, to document that.
So I do have one last question just popped in my head because I was thinking about from my old unit. When I left the police department, when I retired for probably 5 years prior to that, 5 or 6, we had paid one of the companies that do the policies for like a huge company, one that's in California.
Yes.
And I personally thought that their policy was too many words. Would you like to see too much overkill, or is too many words leave too many interpretations open?
Again, it depends. And a lot of times, even those companies that come up with these policies, it's incumbent upon the individual agency to go through it and customize it for their own use. For example, some policies say you can use a dog depending upon the seriousness of the crime. Well, all of us have a different definition of what's serious. Yeah. That policy should be rewritten so every handler and supervisor knows exactly the seriousness for which a dog can be used. So it's not so much the words, it's what is allowed or disallowed, and there should be no ambiguous language so that you and I debate whether or not a serious crime has taken place. We should all know, yes, that is a serious crime. We're going to deploy, or nope, we're not going to deploy on that for whatever reason. There should be no ambiguity on that, and that's why a policy should be written.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because the policy said serious offense.
Yep.
There was no list of definition of serious offense, and I had to supervise because I had to defend a guy in the department with it. He goes, yeah, but the courts have said what is a serious offense. I go,
no, they haven't.
We have to go by this.
Yes.
It says serious offense, and then the next paragraph is Graham versus Connor. Basically you got to take this other things into account.
The advice I give dudes,
the out. That's the way out.
The advice I give guys is get rid of the word serious and replace it with nature. And when I tell them, I say, look,
Nature of defense.
yeah, nature. And I tell them, I was like, look, nobody's going to argue with you that Bernie Madoff, that was a serious crime. Like, that dude stole billions of dollars.
Are we going to deploy on Bernie as he runs
Right,
away?
exactly. So, I mean, it's a serious crime, right? I mean, that dude stole so much. He's in prison for so long, his parole officer hadn't even been born yet. And so, and he was such a flight risk that when they went and arrested him, they were in suits and they put him in the back of a Suburban unhandcuffed. Like, that's how dangerous Bernie Madoff was. And I tell people, I'm like, look at the nature of the crime, and typically it's crimes against people or against stuff. Like if they're against people in terms of like robbery or home invasion or things like that.
There has to be violence involved.
And violence against people. I was like, that is meets the term, and the nature of that crime is violent. And because and that's the thing, like nobody would argue, and this is another one. Like the nature of the crime, a lot of our guys are part of a task force locally that deal with child pornography stuff. And just about every time one of those guys gets arrested, it's a violent altercation. And while that crime, the mere possession of child pornography is not in its sense a violent crime against a person, now maybe the production might have been, but the mere possession of it is not a violent crime in the possession. Typically, those guys require a lot of violence to be detained. And we have bitten a couple of people for trying to get out of child pornography arrests. So, and the other thing those dudes always have is guns. They almost always have firearms.
Well, we have tried to deal with that seriousness definition. So I'll give a free advice to your listeners. If they go to the city of West Covina in California, it's WEST Covina, Covina, the police department. On its website, it has all their policies. A couple of us rewrote their canine policy, and we define serious offenses. So if anybody wants to get an idea what a policy should look like, we think, go to the city of West Covina Police Department, download their canine policy, and see whether they want to use any of the language we put in there. So I offer that to your listeners for free.
And one little shot I'll take at brass before we leave is the reason why they don't go into those computer programs and change the language is because they're lazy. We saw it all. I'm like, why is this still here? This isn't even a thing here. The helicopter or whatever. We don't have it. Yeah, I feel like getting to it. You know what I mean?
That will come back and bite you, unintended.
1,000%, but it won't bite him.
Right.
That's the problem. So real quick, if say somebody needed you, or even, hey, can you come in and do a threat assessment of our policy and our canine? How do they get a hold of you?
You can reach me at my email, which is phonetically Edward Paul Robert at Manning, M as in Mary, ANN as in Nancy, INGLLP.com. So EPR at ManningLLP.com is my email. And reach out. I'll do whatever I can to help. And we do a lot of audits of canine and SWAT teams and try to give industry standards to everybody.
Great, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been wanting to do this
satisfied
one.
now.
I've been wanting to do this one for
Is
a
it
while.
time for wine now?
Almost, pretty much, yeah.
I think it's time for a glass of something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
excellent. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.